old. He's still, I think, in his prime, maybe the end of it. He's not put up huge numbers in the last few years. All NBA once in like the last 6 seasons. Now you could argue, Jay, it's at a tough position to lean back and lay off Paul George. And it's a weird situation with the Clippers because this feels like a high-stakes poker game. Kawhi, we're going to give you your money, not a full max deal, but we know your injury history, so we're not going to pay you everything. Kawhi, thank you. I will take $158 million or whatever the massive number is that he got. Clippers then go to Paul George. Hey, you're always hurt. Kawhi's always hurt. We want you to take less than the max. Paul George, come again? No, not doing that. It appears, and this is my read, that the Clippers want Paul George to take a hometown discount and be like, hey, Kawhi took it. Can you take it? You know, you guys have been together 5 years and we got 2 conference finals losses, one up 3-1. You can blame Doc Rivers, bubble, Nuggets, whatever. And Paul George seems to be like holding firm. And, you know, if you guys have ever played poker, you know, you can always look at tells. And I noticed some tells on Paul George. He's now doing a podcast. Some of the stuff he says, like you could pick up breadcrumbs from some of this stuff, but look at all the teams that he's being linked to, and they're all in the Eastern Conference. Orlando Magic. Now they have money to burn, as Dan Wojcicki said earlier. Orlando could use a Paul George. Philadelphia 76ers have a max slot that Morey can offer him. Hey, do you want to go play with Embiid and Maxey and the Sixers? I mean, I don't know if that's really an upgrade from the Clippers since Embiid's always hurt, just like Kawhi Leonard. Nevertheless, but the intriguing team that I see here is the New York Knickerbockers. My team I've rooted for since I was a young guy. You know, I was born in New York. We would go back. We left New York, and then we'd go back up there to family trips. Went to a couple games at the Garden, and I was just like, oh, my gosh, this is everything. I think Paul George would be an amazing fit with the Knicks. Like, incredible. I think that makes total sense. Here's the thing. Is Paul George bluffing? I will go to the Eastern Conference. Don't make me, Clippers. I will go east. I was born out here in California. I love it out here. When I was in Indy at the end, I demanded a trade back west because I wanted to play for the Lakers. I'll settle for the Clippers. He goes to OKC, and then he ends up with the Clippers. He wants to be out here, and the Clippers know that. So the Clippers are leveraging, we know you want to be out here, and we don't think you're going to take your ball and go to Orlando or Philly or New York. But if Paul George can get some clarity here and the right people are in his ear, I'm just telling you, there is a world where Paul George to the Knicks works as a home run and the Knicks are in the finals. Because, folks, they actually match up great with the Boston Celtics because of the flexibility on the wing. You know, you got Anunoby, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson. They're a tough matchup for the Boston Celtics. Obviously, Boston would be favored in the series, but assuming Hartenstein returns at center, and he's very good, he's going to return likely. You insert Paul George in there, that's a hell of a team. That they will go toe-to-toe with the Boston Celtics in the East. That's a fact. And the question is, does he want to go to New York? Is an LA guy, Alex and I were just talking, is an LA guy going to be cool going to the Knicks? Now, my counter would be, Paul, do you think the Clippers have a chance to win in the West? And I think easily the answer is no. They're not a top 6 team. I don't know if they're a top 8 team. What's going to happen with Russell Westbrook? Is he going to return? What's up with James Harden? There's a lot of questions with the paperclips. I love to call them the paperclips. So I think Paul George should seriously consider, hey, Jalen Brunson, come get me. Knicks give 3 or 4 draft picks. Clippers can replenish here in the coming years in the draft, and you toss in Julius Randle. I don't know if that's a great package, but if Paul George doesn't want to be there, Clippers don't want to lose him for nothing. So I think Paul George to the Knicks makes a hell of a lot of sense. Now, what is the sleeper team, if you will, that I've heard, as I text people asking, well, give me something spicy on Paul George. And more than one person has said, keep an eye on the Warriors. The Warriors have a lot of options that they can tinker with. And if they can bring in Paul George, now I know the salaries have to match because of the second apron, and we're not going to get into the minutia and financials, but Paul George to the Warriors would be like the Andrew Wiggins move on steroids. Paul George as a wing fits perfectly with the 3-and-D that the Golden State Warriors love. I think Paul George has options, but like we talked about earlier with Klay Thompson, it's I don't know, does Paul George really want to leave? Would he actually say, Clippers, I'm out? Because that's leaving the West Coast where he seems to love. He's got the budding podcast happening. I don't know if he'd do it, but I think the smart move, and again, Paul George is different from Klay Thompson in that Klay was drafted by the Warriors. Paul George, drafted by the Pacers, OKC, now with the Clippers. I don't think he has a tie to the Clippers as much he does to Los Angeles. So Paul George, if you're smart and you got the right people in your ear, take a look at the Knicks, my man. I think there's a world where you go to the Knicks and the pecking order in the East would be undeniably Boston, Knicks. Like Joel Embiid can't get anyone else to pair with him and Maxey better than Paul George. Like it sounds like Karl-Anthony Towns is probably not happening, but Paul George to the Knicks, I think it would be great for the league. And I think it would be pretty phenomenal for Paul George. Because listen, he's been close. Remember in Indy, he went toe-to-toe with LeBron and the Heatles in some really, really fun series. And the second best player he had was like Roy Hibbert. And then, of course, Paul George had the graphic, gruesome injury in the pre-Olympic run-up, broken leg. And he hasn't totally been the same player, but he's still really, really good. So I like Paul George a lot to the Knicks. Alex, I know you're not as hot on leaving L.A. for New York. But I don't know if the right job offer came up.
I didn't say that. You just asked, do I enjoy New York? I was like, I do to visit.
But if the right job offer came up.
Heck yeah. Yeah. It's a city that is like, that's a place where you can thrive on all levels. You have the entertainment side. You have the awesome restaurants, food, a lot going on, fan base. But the thing is, like Paul George, as you mentioned, you have to ask yourself, do I think I can win here with the Clippers in LA, in the West? Because that is the biggest question. What do you want to do? Do you want to secure your money, or do you want to go to a place where you can win? And there's no wrong answer or right answer for an athlete. That is their choice. What's important to you at this point in your career, right? Because with the Clippers, you have James Harden, who came over, Kawhi Leonard, you got Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. Do you think you can win?
I don't think there's a path.
Terrence
Now, the other angle.
It's
Thibodeau, is he going to want Paul George? Hey, Paul, you're 34, but you got to grind. You're like the senior member of our team.
But that's okay. Sometimes the veteran presence is what a young team needs. And if he still has that drive, if it's the right fit for him, at this point, you got to do what's right for numero uno.
Brunson had, I think, the highest usage rate in the playoffs. He could use someone to take a little pressure off him. You can't score 40 every night.
Yeah.
So I think Paul George, a great number 2 for the Knicks. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But again, is it where he wants to be? And what is the ultimate goal? To get paid and be happy where you are, or to find a team where you can go actually win a championship?
And that's one that we don't know the answer to.
There is no right answer. It is individual to that player every single time.
Yeah. All right, we're off the next 2 days, knocked off for soccer. Coming up next, Albania, Spain. That'll be a beatdown. And Croatia, Italy. That'll be a phenomenal game. Enjoy.